Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Daniel Nangelo from Dev Impact Institute, and welcome to today's lesson, where we'll be continuing from our previous lesson on how we were just looking at how to design or how to collect data using mobile data collection platforms. And for today's lesson, we'll be looking how to design forms using Xlsforms. And at a glance, we are going to look at the structure of Xlsforms. And if you are watching this particular video for the very first time, I will encourage you to just go down at the link below on our channel and just go through the previous videos on where we've just discussed and demonstrated the previous aspects and concept when you are working with any mobile data collection platforms. Anyway, for now, welcome and let's start. So we said that Xlsforms is an Excel-based form designer that allows us to build from basic surveys or questionnaires to complex surveys or questionnaires. Now, so today I have this particular questionnaire here, and this is what we'll be designing. So I have a form here called a beneficiary form, and we have a number of questions here. I've tried to put as much as possible questions that are covering different types of question types and different aspects that you will encounter in any kind of survey or data collection exercise. So what do we need? So to design forms or to design a questionnaire using Xlsforms, first you need to have your forms. And for this particular exercise, we are assuming that you have prior knowledge on how to design questions, right? So that is it. Then once you have these particular questions, the next item for you to do is to open a blank Excel workbook. So I'm just going to go to my desktop and I'll just click on new Microsoft Excel worksheet. So I'm going to call it, I'm going to give it a name that is similar to this form of mine, that is beneficiary form. So I'll just rename that to beneficiary. And I want to notice that my Xlsform name, I've just for two words, for multiple words, I'm separating each word using an underscore. So that is that. Good. So I'm going to click on it to open it. So what makes up an Xlsform? Xlsform is made up of three mandatory sheets. The first sheet is called the survey sheet. Then we have the choices sheet, and the settings sheet. So I'm going to quickly add those sheets. So I'm going to rename this one. So I'm just going to have three sheets like that. So the first one, I'm going to call it survey, and you need to be very careful or very keen with your spelling. It is survey and not surveys. Then it's choices and not choice. Then it's settings and not setting. So like that. So I'm going to start with the survey sheet. So what makes up a survey sheet? Now a survey sheet, this is where we are going to be adding our questions the way we want it to appear to our end users or our data collectors. Yes, so these questions and the way they are like this is how we're going to be adding them to our survey sheet. Now the survey sheet is made up of 3 mandatory columns, although we have other optional columns that we'll be handling, we'll be looking at as we build this particular questionnaires. So the first sheet, the first column is usually called the type column, and the type column is where we store our question types. And for those who are not conversant with question types, I'm encouraging you to watch my previous lessons where we had discussed the various question types that are there when you are doing or when you are designing forms on any mobile data collection platform. So this is where we'll be storing our question types, or this is where we'll be defining the various question types for the various questions that we'll be adding. Then we have the name column. This is where we'll be defining our data column names for the data that we'll be collecting using this particular survey. And for those who do not know what a data column name is, for example, for this type of question, we have a response. Now, for this particular response is usually stored on a data table or on a table. That particular table usually requires a data column name or a data column title. So, in XLSForm, we refer to that column as a data column name or a name. So like for my case here, we can just call it beneficiary name. So that will be the name of our data column name. Now notice that we have other questions that are very long. Now we can still store them like this, the way they are, and we can also still specify a very short name that we refer to as a data column name that is used to refer to this particular question. Now, depending on the kind of statistical package that you're going to use to analyze your data, Excel works. We have Excel, we have SPSS, and we have Stata, and we have other various analysis packages or statistical analysis packages. Now, what is common with most of these statistical analysis packages is that they do not work well with very long data column names. That is why it's usually very important to define a short data column name that will be used to refer to the very long questions within your survey. Then we have the third column that is called the label. Now the label, this is where we'll be storing our questions the way we want it to appear to our data collectors. So for example, we have date here. We have a group here called we have the first one here called this is an introductory text. So it's basically minimum of 1 form per child or family to be completed by a social worker or family business officer assigned to the beneficiary. Now, this particular kind of text does not require any input. So I'm just going to quickly copy that and add it to my questionnaire. So I'll have it under label. So like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just wrap it so that I'm able to see the whole question at once. So there it is. Now for this, I can just call it intro as my data column name. Then I'm going to assign it a note question type. Basically, we say that the note question type does not require any kind of input. Then I'm going to add the other question types. So allow me to just have it like this. Okay, let me just format it properly. Good. Okay, for now I think I can have it like that. Good. Then I have we have a group here, and that is the beneficiary details. So I'm going to go to put a group here. So I'm going to start with the begin group. I'm going to introduce a begin group question type that will allow me to group my questions. So then I'm going to give it a name. I can just call it group 1. Group 1. Then I can have my text there as beneficiary details, like that. Then after that, I'm going to start adding my I'll need to do something here. I'm going to do an end group. Let me put some space somewhere there. So group. So whatever enters in between here will be stored under beneficiary details group. So I can also begin another group here. And also maybe put some space and also end the group like that. Good. Now we have, okay, I only have one group. Okay, I can maybe call this let me just call it group 2. I can say other. Okay, I like having my group titles in capital letters, so I'll just call it other details. Very good. Now in here I have date, right? And this is the date of the survey. And we said it's always good to just understand your questionnaire. Like for this date, we can collect this date using metadata. And so the next thing we can do is just come here and insert. Let me insert 2 columns. So I can have, I'll have start. Now start basically will collect data about the start time of the survey, start time, that is the start time and date of the survey, and then we have end, which will be end time and end date of the survey. We refer to this as metadata, so they do not require any label, because we said that they are going to capture this data automatically without prompting the user for the input. So I'm going to have another one. I'll call it today. So today basically is going to auto capture the current date of the survey. So with that, I know now I do not need to have this date, so I can leave that out. I'll just go directly to name of the beneficiary. So name of beneficiary. Now for name of beneficiary, I'm going to assign a data column name. So let me call it, I do not want it to be long, so I'm just going to call it beneficiary name. Beneficiary name. Now Excel doesn't, when you are working with the data column names, your data column names are usually very unique. You should not repeat or reuse a data column name. And if you are utilizing 2 words for your data column names, you are required to separate it using an underscore, just like the way I've done here on my questionnaire. So after I've done that, I'm going to assign a question type for this particular question. Now name of beneficiary, basically that will require a text response. For that particular text response, I'm going to assign a text question type. Then I have here sex of beneficiaries, so I'll add that under my label. So I'll have sex of beneficiary. So I can just call it sex. Then I have okay, I need to have, it should be either male, female, or the other genders that are not within this particular categories. So you can only belong to one gender. So I'm going to assign a select one question type. Now this, well, after I've done that, select one question type, I need to define this particular question. I need to define a list name. Now, for this particular question, we have a responses that those are the male, female, and other. Now, for these particular responses, I'm not going to store it under label. What is usually required is under the choices sheet, you come and define these particular responses. Now, for the choices sheet, this is where we store our responses for the multiple choice questions. So it also has 3 mandatory columns. That is the list name. The list name, I'm going to talk about the list name in a jiffy. So let me just add the other types of mandatory columns. So then I am going to have the label. Those are usually the mandatory columns. Now I have male. Let me use male, female, other. Label, this is how your responses are going to be shown or displayed to your data collector or enumerator. Now I have male, female, and other. The name, this is how your data you're going to code. This is how you're going to code your responses. You can either decide to go with male like that, female, or other like that. Right? You can also decide, maybe you do not want to work with this. You can decide to go with M, F, and let me use T, because O is usually I usually don't like working with O because it can be confused between O, the letter O, and the number 0. So you can code it like that. You can also code it using numbers. You can have 1 for male, 2 for female, and 3 for other, like that. So this will depend with how you want to code your responses. So for my case, I'm just going to go with let me just go with M. Let me go with M, F, and T. Now, within this particular questionnaire, we have several multiple choice questions. Like we also have this other question here, that is a child in school or out of school. We have the first response is in school or at risk. Then we have let me just good. We have these 3 options, so we can have them there, right? So, but I'm going to add it later. So in this particular worksheet, the choices worksheet, I'm going to have the various responses for different multiple choice questions. Now, I'm going to we have this particular column that is called the list name. The list name is a unique identifier that ties a group of responses to their specific questions under the survey. Now, I'm going to call, like for my case here, I'm just going to call this gender. Right? I'm going to assign it the gender list name. So this is going to tie, I'm going to use this list name, that is gender, to tell my survey that it should pick whenever it sees the word gender, the list name gender, to come and only display options that are found under this particular list name. So under here, it's only going to show, select one gender. So it's going to show responses that are related to this particular question or to this particular list name. So that is what we mean by a list name. It's a unique name that links a question to its specific responses. Now, whatever you've typed here should be similar with what you have here, right? Do not be very keen with how you are typing it. So the best practice is to just copy and paste this particular list name here. So I've done that. So I need to advance to the next question. So my next question is age of beneficiary. So I'm going to have it there. Age of, okay, let me not go with age, let me just go with the date of birth. So let me just change this to date of birth. Then I can have a hint. Let me not say date of birth, but year of birth. So that is that. So I'll come here and call year of birth like that. So I can have a data column name as YOB like that. Then I'm going, because it's a date question type, I'm going to assign the date question type. Now I'm only interested with the year part. So I'm going to introduce a new column. I'm going to introduce a new column and call it appearance. So appearance. Now I'm only interested with the year part only. So I'll come here and say year. I'm only interested with the year part. So this particular appearance attribute is only going to pop up a calendar that will only display the year. So it's going to do a list for the various years so that I'm able to choose from. Then if I wanted to know the age of this particular beneficiary, I'll do a calculate question that is going to calculate for me this. So I'm going to introduce a question there. I'm going to introduce calculation like that. That is a column. Then I'm going to introduce a question type here called calculate like that. So I'm going to call it age. Under label, calculate questions are usually hidden. So this, we do not require any label. So under the calculation column, this is where I'm going to put my formula here. So the first thing that I need to do good. Something I just need to show you here quickly. So just allow me to open this slide. Good. Good. A calculation here. Now, calculations or calculate questions allows you to perform basic calculation within your forms. So this one is usually very good, especially when you want to perform things like calculate age, or for those who are working in the humanitarian sector, and you might be doing food consumption score for each particular household, and you'll want to know what was the index or what was the score, so that it will guide you on what is the next item to do, or what are some of the next types of questions to ask. So that is what calculate questions usually do. So for my date questions, I'm going to have it like this. So we have, if you want to only calculate months, then we are going to divide our formula with 30.44. Then if you want to calculate the result and have our result or display our result as in years, we are going to use 365.24. So we have this particular first part here. It's going to be today. Now this today was that metadata that we had stored, this, right? So we're going to use this minus what the user had entered as a response for year of birth. So for our case, we're going to have something like this. Now, when we are doing calculations or when we are doing form logics, we usually do not refer to the questions itself, but we refer to the data column name. Now, a programmatic way of referring to data column names is we introduce it, like if we wanted to talk about year of birth in a calculation or in a form logic, this is how we wrap it. We use a $sign, then we use open brackets like that, then we have it like that. So this one is going to refer, this will refer to this, that is the data column name for year of birth. So we know if you're calculating year of birth, we are going to have a today. So I'll still do the same thing, that I'm going to do a $sign. So that is my $sign. Then I'm going to have my brackets like that. Then I'm going to have today. So after I've done that, I'll introduce the subtraction sign that will allow me to subtract. For purposes of just being at par, I'll recommend that you watch my previous lesson where we talked about this, and we talked about operators here. Yes, we talked about operators. So we said for addition you have the plus sign, the addition sign. For subtraction we have the subtraction sign. For multiplication we have the asterisk sign. For division we have the word div. If you want to find a division remainder or modulo, we have the mod word. And on this particular column you can see we have the various examples on how these particular operators are used within your form. Then we have these others. We have equal to is used as that, as the equal sign. Not equal to is usually very good, especially when you are doing relevant or you're doing skip logic. So we have greater than is represented by that particular sign. Greater than or equal to is represented by this. And notice that the equal sign is always in front and does not start. So it starts with a greater than, then the greater than or equal to. So this is how you're supposed to represent it. Do not start with equal sign. So notice also under less than or equal to is that particular sign for less than, then you finish or you end it with the equal to sign like this. So you have it in example like this, like that, and so on. So that is that. So for this the values that are in here are going to be represented as days. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change them into years. So I'm going to divide by d by I'm going to divide it by 365.24 so that I'm able to get the year part. So I'm going to, so that I can convert or can have my result in years. So under here I'm going to do 365.24 like that. So now it's going to have my years as a fraction, or it will have decimal parts. So I do not need a decimal part. So to remove the decimal part, I'm going to convert them into integer like that. Introduce a bracket there and a bracket there. So my final result is going to be in years that do not have a fractional or a decimal part. So I'll just have this within my questionnaire. So under calculation, so I'll have it there. That is it for my calculation. So I can save it. Then to display whatever I have here, I'll come and do maybe just call it edge display like this. Okay, sorry. I'm going to use a not question type just to display. So I'll call it display edge. Then under label, I'll just say, I'll type the text, this beneficiary is, then I'm going to reference this, that is edge. So I'm going to use my $sign like that, and then I'm going to have it as edge. Then because I have done my calculation, it's displaying in years, I'll put a space there and just type years. So what it's going to do is going to display, going to calculate and display the age of this beneficiary in years. So that is a not question type and all that. So I can save it like that. Then I need to add more questions. So I have this part is a child in school or out of school. So then we have if in school or out of school, what support does the child need? So I can introduce here a hint and call it tick only one, tick only one, like that. So it's basically this particular type of text is guiding my respondent or my data collector on how this particular question should be answered. So I'm going to have this on my questionnaire. So I'm going to insert a new column like that, and I'm going to have it there. Then I'm going to introduce another column here. I'm going to call it hint like this. So under hint, I'm going to have this text here, tick only one. So I'll come here and paste it like that. Then I'll come here is a child in school, out of school. So I'm going to assign a very short data column name. I'll call it what? Let me just call it school status. Let me call it education. Status. Now I know that these are is a multiple response question, so I select one because I can see here that I have tick only one. So I'm going to assign select underscore one. Then I'll assign I'll come here, define these responses like that. So I have that like that. So I can code them as 1, 2, and 3. Then I'll just call them Duke. I'm going to assign this small list name, that is Duke. So I'm going to link it to my questionnaire with the list name, that is Duke, like that. Then I'm going to save it. Then I'm going to advance to the next question. If in school or out of school, what support does the child need? For this, I have a skip logic or a form logic that is here. So I'm going to show you how to program that using Xlsform. So I'm going to add it here. If in school or out of school, what support does the child need? So I'm going to assign here a data column name as support type, like that. Then okay, I have multiple. A child, the beneficiary may require more than one type of support, so I can have my hint there, tickle that apply. So good. So I'll have that under hint. Okay, let me wrap this. Good. So then a tickle that apply, basically that tells me that you should select more than one, so that is going to be a select many or select multiple. So I'll have it as select multiple question type. Then I'm going to assign it my list name, that is okay. I need to first do the responses or the choices. So I have remedial classes, so I'll have it there. Then I have livelihood support for caregiver. Then I have counseling. Then I have family tracing and unification. So I'll have it like that. I'll still code them. Good. So I'll just call it support. Good. So I'll have it here, select multiple, and have it as, so I'll link it with the support list name. So there it is. Now I have a skip logic here. So this particular question should only be answered by only those who selected or who selected in school or out of school, as the response type, as a response. So I'm going to do a skip, I'm going to do a relevant. So I'm going to introduce an additional column here. I'm going to call it relevant. Relevant is going to handle my skip logics. So relevant, like that. Be very keen with your spelling. Be very keen with your spelling. So I have my question here. Now, this is how XLSForms handles skip logics. A question is, if you have a skip logic, the question that is supposed to be answered based on a previous question. Like for example, this question is supposed to be answered by, depending on how the data collected answered this previous question. So our skip logic is going to be here and not here. So this is a question that is going to have a skip logic. And this skip logic is what it's going to do. It's going to hide this particular question until this condition is met, that is, if in school or out of school. So within our relevant column, we're going to have our skip logic syntax. So let me just quickly demonstrate that. So remember that we are using this is how we are referencing our skip logic, right? Now so I'm just going to have it selected like that. So I'm going to have it within commas. Then I'm going to say how did they answer my previous question. My previous question is called education status. So I'm going to use the data column name education status and have it here, like, sorry, so education status, and I'm going to do a comma like that. What was the coding for in school and out of school? The coding for in school and out of school was 1 and 2, right? So I'll come here and say 1. So type, I'm going to use that and say or. Then I'm going to also education status. So like that. Then as 2. That is the first syntax I can decide to use. The other syntax, I only know I have 3 options, and basically the ones who did not answer these questions, that are the ones who did not answer it as never enrolled, then should not be able to see this question. So I can also decide to have it as like this. Just use a $sign parenthesis like this and say like that. So we can either go with this or with this. So for my case, I can go with this. I can also go with this. So I'm going to go with this and have it there. So I'll have it under the relevant column. So here it is. Good. There it is. So then I can end my group there. I can now start on the other. Now, on our question, we can enforce some quality checks. Like for the year of birth, we do not want people to give values that are in the future. So I'll introduce a column here. I can have it under here, insert, and I'm going to call it constraint. So what constraint does, it allows us to just enforce some data quality checks. Then what I need to do under the year of birth, I only want it to pick the current year, from the current year going backwards into the past. So I'm going to have my syntax there. Okay, I can call this relevant or skip logic. That is skip logic. I'll call it just a relevant column. This goes under the relevant column. And this is the calculation. It goes under what? The calculation column. Calculation column, like that. Then yeah, sure, that is it. So let me introduce the constraint column. So constraint so what this does is called data quality check. The data quality check. So this goes under the constraint column. Now, like for my case, I need to just enforce so that it only accepts values from for my case is 2020, so I do not need to have it should reject anything that is beyond 2020. So if it picks 2021, it's going to reject it. But I want it to be in a way such that if this form is used in 2021, then it will still be able to update itself based on the kind of data that is stored under the today date. So we have this column. We can say dot. Then I'll say year of birth. That is, we start with year of birth. That is YOB. So should be lesser or equal to year of birth. Then if this particular syntax is violated, it should display an error. So my particular error can be year of birth cannot be in the future. I can have something like invalid response. Like that. Year of birth cannot be in the future. So if this particular condition is violated, then it's going to display invalid response. Year of birth cannot be in the future. So I'm going to have this syntax. I'm going to have it under the constraint column, that is under year of birth. So I'm going to have it under the constraint column there. Then, sorry, this is not right. This is not right. This should be today. Yes, this should be today, like this. So I'll have that. Now we have this the full stop or the dot. Now the dot, what the dot does, the dot is a programmatic way of referring to the current response that has been entered into this particular question, right? And that comes under formulas and operators. So path operators, we have the dot here. The dot refers to the current question's value. For example, dot more than, greater than or equals to 18 is only used in constraints. If you are working with the calculations you refer to the, you are supposed to refer to it properly using the dot dollar sign. The two, you open the parenthesis, the curly brackets, put in the data column name and close it, right? But for a case, if you're using constraints, you need to use the dot, which refers to the current question value, like this. So that is that. So we need to, I'm going to introduce another column here that is supposed to carry text or the error message. So I'm going to call it constraint underscore message, like this. Be very careful with your spelling. So it has to be like this. So under year of birth, I'm going to have my text here, my error message, like that. Then I'm going to have it there, right? Invalid response. Invalid response. Year of birth cannot be in the future. So that has been beautifully done. Then that's all about skip logics. Within your questionnaire, most of the times you'll find that you'll want to have media as part of your questions. Maybe display a picture, maybe a picture of birds, and maybe ask your respondent what are they seeing. Like maybe say we have 3 pictures, like for example, maybe play a very short video and ask questions based on that particular video that has been viewed or played, or maybe a picture that has been displayed and played. Now to do that, we usually, like for example, I have something here. Okay. I can display this picture and maybe ask my respondent how many birds can they see. So to have media as part of questions within your questionnaire, this is what we usually do. We introduce a new column, then I'll say insert. Then under here, I'll just type media, like that. Then I'll just type image. Under here, right? Okay, so under the question, I'm going to introduce a question about the birds. So it can come under other details here. So I can have my question as how many bars can you see in the picture? Like that. Then to display my image, I'll have under my folder, I'll come and type copy this name the way it is together with the file extension, that is the .jpg. So I'll copy that name like that and have it under media image like that. So I have it there. Then I can maybe say number of bad number like that. Then this is a what? This should be an integer question, right? So I'll have it as integer question under the question type. So that is it. If I wanted to do a video, then I'll just change this. I'll change this to something like this. Okay, so far I have this, so I'll change it to audio. If I had a video, I'll change it to video like that. So that is it. Now if I wanted to capture, maybe I wanted to capture the picture of this particular beneficiary, I'll introduce a question type called media. I'll introduce a question type image for image question type for capturing images or pictures. Then I'll introduce another one, audio, for just recording a very short video. Maybe is a discussion between you and the respondent, or maybe it's a group discussion or a focus group discussion. You can use audio that allows you to record very short audios. If I need to do a very short video, maybe to document, maybe you're doing an environmental survey, you can also do a video by using the video question type. So that is that. So I'm going to add take picture of beneficiary. Take picture of beneficiary. Then I'll have it as pic. Then I'll assign it image question type. Right. If I wanted to do audio, I'll just come and say check record audio. Then I'll change this to audio. So for now, I do not need audio nor video, so I'll leave it like that. If I wanted to maybe incorporate GPS coordinates within my survey and just be able to locate residence of my beneficiary, I'll introduce a GPS question. I can call it capture GPS coordinates of beneficiary residence. So then I'll have it as maybe data column name can be just GPS like that. Then I can have, I'm going to assign a geo point question type for GPS questions. So this will allow me to capture a GPS. If I wanted to just increase or maybe for my geo point, if I wanted to have some controls on the accuracy, I'll just come here and introduce a column that allows me to have an accuracy for my GPS coordinate, so that I just do not have any kind of GPS coordinate that is not accurate. So I'll do a column called accuracy threshold, like that. So if I wanted to just enforce an accuracy for my GPS data, I'll introduce a column called body, then two full columns, accuracy threshold, like this. Then on my GPS per question, I'll come and say what is the accuracy. For my case, I might decide to go with 3 meters. So 3 basically refers to meters. So it will not accept any GPS coordinate that has an accuracy of more than 3 meters. Basically, it's going to pick 3 equals to 3, lesser or equals to 3 meters. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is what I wanted us to cover for this particular session. I want you to practice this on your own. Then let us meet in our next lesson, where we'll be looking at how you can just continue building up more complex questionnaire, look at how we can just have cascading selects, external selects, and all that, then see how we can just upload this data or this form into our data servers and be able to view them using as web forms using our browsers, either on our laptops or browsers on our smartphones, and also see how we can just also visualize this survey form using apps on our smartphones. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy that you were able to join me today. So see you in our next lesson. Thank you.